Okay, we got another request for a tutorial, this time for the nose grind. Um, they've also requested a few other tricks as well, but I'm going to try and just work on the nose grind tutorial for now. It's not a terribly difficult trick to do. It can be done front side or back side. It can be done street or vert. I dare say it's probably easier on vert than it is anything else, but we're going to start out with street for now. Now, what makes it front side or back side is, imagine, if you will, that your hand is a character on the fingerboard. And so you have, if you're regular footed, then, you're probably using your right hand, at least in fingerboarding terms. If you are goofy footed, then you're using your left hand. Now, the rest of this, based on the wording or the verbiage, should remain about the same from this point regardless, because, I'm going to do this right-handed, but that's because the majority of people are right-handed. So if you're left-handed, just mirror it and you'll get the same idea. Now, okay, so again, imagine this is a person on a fingerboard. The way that I do this, the pointer finger is the left hand, the middle finger is the left foot, ring finger is the right foot, pinky is the right hand, and my thumb, I challenge myself to just not use it at all, if I can help it. Okay, so now that we've covered that, clearly that means that the side of your hand that your knuckles are on is considered your front. Therefore, your back would have to be the side your palm is on. So, if I say something is toe side, well, naturally, that means it's on the same side that your toes are on. Or, if I say something is heel side, then naturally that means it's on the side of the deck that your heels reside on. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that is toe side is also front side. Maybe a majority of cases, but not all. Same thing can be said the other way for heel side and back side. Now, as you're approaching an obstacle, if that obstacle is facing the toe side of the board and you're on approach, that means whatever grind or slide you're about to do on it, provided you're not doing a spin into it or anything like that, is a front side, whatever that grind may be. In this case, we're going with a front side nose grind. Right? It helps if I actually land it, right? Now, you see how the deck is parallel with the edge that I'm grinding on. That's how you would do this. So you need to pop your ollie. I mean, you don't have to start out back here. I see a lot of people that they'll start out like back here somewhere, and then, well, see, now I'm over the center, and instead we've got a nose manual and a nollie off the edge. But this is essentially doing the same thing. The only difference is we're approaching the obstacle being the edge that we're going to do the grind on. Now you see how when I popped it, I made sure to tilt my wrist just slightly so that I could catch it on an angle just like that nose grind. And again, the deck is completely parallel with the edge that it's grinding on. Now, I'm going to do a couple of other things here to differentiate. Okay, so now that's not a nose grind. That would be a frontside crooked grind, also known as a frontside K grind, or frontside Costin grind, named after Eric Costin. He was the pro that basically took all of these variations of what a lot of people were saying, oh, this and that's a nose grind, when they weren't, and he was the first one to to in a more official judge like capacity make it sanctioned that, that there's a difference. That difference being the angle that the deck is during the grind in comparison to the edge that it's being done on. So that's why that's a front side costing grind, or you could say crooks or crooked. Those are all correct. So that's not a nose grind, that's a crooks grind. But other than that, the steps were pretty much about the same. One thing I did a little bit different was I approached the obstacle at a little bit more of an angle. That way it's easier to naturally catch it, even if you're going to slappy into it at this kind of angle. And there is a slight pop off that I'm doing right at the end. I don't know if you quite catch it, but what I'm doing at the end of any of these, be it a crooks grind or a nose grind, or the next grind I'm going to show you, right at the end or whenever I'm ready to hop off, what I actually do is I dip the tail end just slightly, not enough to make contact, and then I pop a slight nollie out of the end of it. And the reason that I do that is specifically so that the front truck doesn't get hung up here on the edge. And the same thing also is to prevent, the tail end from getting hung up here as well. You pop that nollie to get out of it. Alright, so the next one, I'm still going to approach it at a slight angle, but when I angle my wrist to catch it in there, the intent is to catch it so that, just like that. Now, it's okay if you need to adjust into it as well. So what this is, that is called a frontside over crooks grind. Or you can call it an over K grind or an over costing grind. Because that's what it's called. It's an over crooks. That's the most common name for it. But that's, these three tricks have those very distinct things. Obviously, the reason it's called an over crooks instead of just being called a nose grind is the fact that the tail end is elevated up and over the obstacle. Just like the difference between a board slide and a lip slide is where the back of the deck, the back trucks come up over the obstacle to make it a lip slide. Or a board slide, only the front does. So there's that. So there's basically a triple tutorial for you right there. Frontside nose grind, frontside crooks grind, and frontside over crooks. Now, if you want to do them backside, I would turn this around, and now you can. Oh, there's backside nose grind, backside over crooks, sorry about that, and you know what, I'm going to keep that in anyway. So, yeah, that too. That like really messed me up. Alright, so that would be a backside nose blunt. There we go. That's backside over crooks. That's backside board slide. And there's a backside crooked grind. So, the exact same principles remain the same. Backside, because when I approached, this edge was on the palm side, so that's a backside nose grind, right? Again, the deck is parallel with the edge. On that last one, the backside crooks, the deck is angled away from, and the back truck is elevated, just like with the nose grind, but angled away from the obstacle. Whereas with the back truck elevated, you're grinding on the front truck, and your back truck is over the obstacle, that's a backside over crooks. As for the nose blunt that I did in this clip, that was completely on accident. But, I mean, hey, you know what? I was going to take it anyway. Because, why not, right? As for how I did it, while, yes, I, again, fully admit it was on accident, what I was actually trying to do was catch the deck, like, you know, an overcrook. And this does commonly happen. And this is actually, you know what, you could call this my tutorial for the nose blunt slide, even though, again, I did it on accident. But the trick, or sorry, the secret to it really is popping and getting over it just like you would for a lip slide, but a little bit more height, and then catching it almost like you would a nose manual, but angled such that the nose of the deck is still on that edge, so you can nose blunt slide. Now, I keep it angled like this so that way I can also either grab or I can not grab it, either way, and pop a nollie off of there. I think that more commonly I tend to do without the grab, but naturally what sometimes will happen is that pinky will touch it. Those of you that do this with the other two fingers, the steps are exactly the same. You're just using these two fingers, okay? So, you know, that's still going to be, well, there. That's still going to be a backside board slide. And you notice I did it with the two fingers. So, there you go. Now, I'm going to call out, I might be mispronouncing it, but I did ask at one point how it's pronounced, and my understanding that I gathered was it was pronounced Vasic or Vazic, and that's who requested this tutorial. Vasic also requested one for a tail grind. Well, I've mentioned this a few times, not just to Vasic, but, you know, to others as well, but specifically in this case, because that's who requested this tutorial, I find it prudent to point out the fact that in skateboarding and fingerboarding, there is no such thing as a tail grind. It does not exist. It's not a thing. Instead, we have a 5-0 grind. Okay, if I can get up there. Oh, there it is. Really sketchy one, but so that's a 5-0 grind. I don't know if when you were requesting tail grind, this is what you were asking for, a 5-0 grind, but you see the gist of it is to pop your ollie and catch it almost like a manual, except that your back truck is what's grinding. And again, the front trucks are elevated, but the deck is parallel with the edge or surface you're grinding on. That's called a 5-0 grind. Another possibility, you may have meant a tail slide. That was a frontside tail slide. And the trick here, or the secret to it, is when you pop your ollie, you're basically doing it the same way you might for a lip slide, but instead of catching it in that lip slide, you want to catch it on the tail and then slide along. And you can pop a slight ollie out of it as well. So that would be a frontside tail slide. Now, I mentioned earlier that I was also going to demonstrate these in terms of vert as well. Okay? So this is where there's been a lot of debate over the years where people go, oh, over crooks isn't a thing, you know, and I'm like, according to Eric Costin and the official judge's handbook, written by Russ Howell, Rodney Mullen, and Primo Desiderio, which, by the way, they started that book back in the 60s, and it was a continuing process as more tricks were being added to it, that it eventually got published sometime in the 70s, but it left plenty of open room in there for people who were sanctioned judges for events. And usually these would be pro skateboarders. I happen to know Tony Hawk has done a lot of these. I've judged events as well. Eric Costin himself has judged events. Paul Rodriguez recently judged some events. But this same material is used in pretty much every sanctioned skateboarding event, from X Games, Street League, SLS, what else? The Barracks used it. Yeah, even the Olympics used it when skateboarding was finally added. So, yeah. So those are your official sources right there, So anyway, alright, back to how to do this. Backside nose grind. Again, remember, the principle is only with this you don't have to ollie. Okay? So the principle is to get it to where you're grinding and the deck is parallel with the edge you're grinding on, and the back truck is elevated. Then you can just kind of roll right back in. That's a nose grind to fakie. That would be a backside nose grind to fakie, to be even more specific. Again, you don't have to ollie for this. So that would be a frontside nose grind to fakie. Okay, so now applying those exact same principles, I'm actually going to have to scoot over a little bit more. That is a backside over crooks. And just a slight pop of the wheels to get it back in. Basically a nollie, just like I was doing before. But just very, very, very minimal. Or if you can ride it back in that way, but most of the time people will pop it back in. But that was a backside over crooks. And that's also why I needed to scoot over a little bit more as far as the trick tip portion here goes. Because, man, that's already an awkward enough angle on the wrist. Now you want to, you really want to try to do that way over here? I don't think so. But now for